Okay, and look, man, the title comes through the 2-1-0. So let's get that straight. The title comes through the 2-1-0 for the second year in a row. It's Alamo City that the conference UTSA championship comes through, right? And I know that, we know that, we revere that, but for the second straight year in a row as well, Jared, UTSA has clinched the championship home field advantage in the 11th game of the regular season and come out in the 12th game, the last game of the regular season, completely flat. There is a clinching home field advantage in the championship game hangover that this team has dealt with 2 years in a row, eating the cheese, focused on the next game, whatever it is. But I would argue in both those games, the absolute worst football of the entire year up to that point, and probably there so after. Okay, can't afford it. Cannot afford to do it in the total warfare bloodbath that will be the rivalry championship game against North Texas. We have to be perfect. There's not a world that exists where UTSA should be down to UTEP 24-0. We shouldn't be down against any team in the country 24-0. It's and to let the primos come in here and do that is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And so I just, I need this team focused on what is exactly in front of them and only what exactly in front of them. And I'm confident we're going to do that. They've earned that respect. And the title comes through the 2-1-0. They have built that. They've earned that. And they've got that. But we have got to be so laser locked. We can't be talking about no river parades. We can't be talking about no back to back. We can't be talking about none of that. It is only what is right in front of us, and that is the rivalry championship. The rivalry is weird. Rivalries mess with you. We got to be focused 1,000%. And so I expect us to whip some North Texas ass. That's what we're going to do. But damn, Jared, I cannot deal any longer with the emotional swings that it is watching the cardiac Roadrunners. It's too much. It's too much 2 years in a row now.
Well, first off, that was beautiful. Our creative director, Aaron, asked for a cold open on the podcast. He thought it was a good week to do it. Adrian delivered, as always. Oh, man, there is so much to talk about this week between this crazy game against UTEP, the end of this rivalry series for the foreseeable future. And then we turn right around. We got a conference championship game back in San Antonio again, like Adrian said, 6:30 p.m. on Friday against another in-state rival, the North Texas Mean Green. Great freaking time to be a Roadrunner fan. Back in the top 25 in the AP.
That's right.
Just outside the college football poll rankings, I assume. So much to dive into. But, I kind of want to present the opposite side of your rant, though. And I saw a UTEP fan make this post or make the same point on Twitter. It's freaking unbelievable that UTSA could go down 24-0 and come back and win by 3 points.
It was a thing of beauty. It was a thing of beauty. And you know what? And I should have gave the comeback a shout out in the rant because it deserves that, because this team completely came back down 24-0. And what UTEP was scoreless for the last 27 minutes of football. And UTSA comes back 24-0. I mean, a thing of beauty. And for Jared Sackett to miss his very first field goal and then come back and nail two of them on the way to come back. And
one 51-yarder too. Holy crap.
Then 51-yarder and then a go-ahead to walk it off damn near. I mean, dude, it's a thing of beauty. But I mean, that's his team relying on talent. But we came in so lackluster, Jared. And dude, there were some things being said by some UTSA fans during that first 1.5 quarters there, bro. Let's not forget that.
Look, don't get it twisted, right? At the end of the day, winning is all that matters. But to your earlier point, it's the second straight year that we've seen UTSA show up just completely unprepared, unmotivated, and get out physicaled by a team that was fighting for bowl eligibility. Second straight year in a row with UNT being it last year. And, luckily UTSA just had so much more talent than UTEP. They were able to still pull off that victory, even going down in a 24-point deficit, which is so insane. But it's just really concerning that this is going to be a recurring problem. And, you get bailed out, but that luck is going to run out at some point. And I just want to see more focus from UTSA each and every week going forward. And, this is totally a nitpick against a 10-2 team, undefeated in conference play. But, it is something that needs to be addressed. And, I think Coach Traylor would agree that he needs to be held accountable for that. Like there was something missing. I think the game planning was a little bit sparse. It didn't look like UTSA had prepared to see a running quarterback at all in Calvin Brown-Holtz. Like it looked like they had prepared to play against Gavin Hardison, who was UTEP's starting quarterback before. Who did they play before UTSA? I can't remember now. But yeah, he got hurt like 2 weeks ago. And it looked like the game plan that UTSA had on defense was like a game plan for the Gavin Hardison offense, not a game plan for the Calvin Brown-Holtz offense, which that was disappointing to me. And, in a lot of ways, I think people make the comparison to the UNT game last year, which is fair. But this honestly reminded me more of the Texas Southern game from this season, where it looked like UTSA just didn't game plan for this game at all. Just went out and just played football. And they're like, all right, we got better players. We're going to pull this one out. And we're going to start getting ready for the championship game. And it worked out because UTSA played great against Middle Tennessee that following week after the Texas Southern game and blew them out. And, I'm hopeful and confident they're going to do the same this week on Friday against North Texas and hoist another trophy, in the friendly confines of the Alamodome. But man, it's scary. It doesn't need to be that scary. It doesn't have to be that scary.
Right. What you're saying, there wasn't a whole lot of time spent schematically, you think, for this game. And
just a hunch.
And to your credit, and as well as Brown-Holtz runs the ball, and as well as he did run the ball against us, he came out passing the ball extremely well off bat, even before he got things going with his legs. I think he started with like 4 for 4 with 2 touchdowns.
My question to you, how was he not the starter this year? Like, I get that you're going to start Hardison and you're out of conference slate, but it was clear with Jacob Cowing gone and Garrett, I forget his name. With those two guys gone, they had no real threats for the deep ball. They found ways to get Tyron Smith open schematically on wheel routes and stuff like that. But it's just clear that Gavin Hardison was not the right choice for this offense for UTEP this year. And Brown-Holtz would have been much better for them. I feel confident saying they would have got to a bowl game with Brown-Holtz as their starting quarterback this year. Wow.
Incredible. Yeah. I like Brown-Holtz a lot. I like his game, and I think he's definitely got a lot of potential there to blossom. But no, we bring all this up at the beginning because I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about how well UTSA did in their comeback. It's just something that we want to get up off our chest, right? Especially, when you got Jeff Traylor spending a lot of press conference time talking about know your history, recognize your history. We got to be ready for UTEP. This all UTEP. We remember what happened last year. This and that happened last year. We went to Denton, Texas. And so, I was like, they were talking about it here on camera, but we weren't really doing it in the locker room. So we got to just be focused on what's right in front of us. Again, that's all I'm saying. That's all my messaging is from.
Yeah, it was interesting in Coach Traylor's press interview today. He did say that the mood around the team was as if they lost the game against UTEP, which was encouraging.
Right.
I think it's a bit of a reality check. Yeah, that you got to bring your all every week, right? If UTEP didn't have a freshman cornerback with no safety help, there's no way UTSA is coming back from a 24-point hole. So
I also think, in a lot of regard, that's similar to what happened in Apogee Stadium last year, in that UTSA, a very, very good, peaking, striding UTSA football team, got chin checked, got a nice punch to the mouth, and had to realize, wait a minute, it's not that easy. It's never that easy, right? And so I think, long term, we need the chin check. Let's just hope we're still 100% healthy as well, coming off of a good chin check like that, right?
Yeah, and I talked about the schematic. It didn't seem like UTSA had a great game plan going into it, but they were out physical too. I mean, in that first 2 quarters of football, there was no denying which was the more physical football team and which team wanted that game more. And it was clearly the team from El Paso, man. I mean, it's not like UTSA was like getting blown off the ball, but they were not winning in the trenches whatsoever. I think even you look at the way that Brown-Holtz ran the football. I mean, he was very physically imposing as well. He was looking for contact. He was running guys over. Just a lot of juice from UTEP in that game. And it took UTSA a while to match that energy. And they were able to do it, come the second half. I think Adrian's pick six was a big part of kind of changing that mindset.
Tremendous game shifting moment. But I mean, look, the slow start. Let's talk about it, dude. UTEP 24-0. UTSA does not score until well after halfway through the second quarter, 5 minutes left in the second quarter. So Frank Harris misses on a wide open deep shot to Tykeo Kellogg on the first drive, the opening drive. Sackett misses a 49-yarder, way right.
Mm-hmm.
UTEP has a 5-play, 70-yard touchdown drive.
Those words are sickening.
Opening drive, bro. Brown-Holtz with a nasty strike for first time. Then A-Watt had that big old 37-yard run downfield on that one. And then UTSA gets sacked on 3rd and 15. I think that was a 3 and out where we had -1 yards total on that drive. Flores truck sticks in Wachuku.
Oh, that was ugly. That's a wide receiver too. He goes back and forth between running back and wide receiver.
Disgusting, just filthy.
Nasty.
Brown-Holtz then hits a 45-yard deep pass to a wide open Tyron Smith for the touchdown. And I think up and through that point, UTEP had like 58 yards rushing. UTSA had 0 yards rushing. It was just nasty, bro. It was nasty. It was an onslaught. Coming out the gate, it was an onslaught for the Miners, bro. They were tearing us to pieces. We couldn't get anything right.
Well, if I'm gonna be honest with you, Adrian, I think UTEP had a date with karma, because when Calvin Brown-Holtz, I think the third or fourth touchdown of the game, he like jogged into the end zone backwards and was like staring back at UTSA.
Baby,
and then the UTEP players went and mocked the student section, and they were flicking him off and yelling at him or whatever. Bro, you cannot be that cocky when you are the UTEP Miners. How in the world can you feel like you were going to come in to UTSA and act like that and not have it blow up in your face? You are the UTEP Miners. You have toiled in a lack of recognition and inferiority to your conference for a decade. And you're going to come in cocky like that, and you really think that's going to work for you?
Way too much energy on that. Entirely too much energy on that. Dude, that was really, really dirty. To do something like that in the second quarter, as early as that was in the ball game, dude, yeah, it was a real foul play right there, and was not received well for the UTSA Roadrunners. That was a big game-changing moment, Jared. Really, really filthy play right there. Oh my gosh, man.
It's I love that. When UAB does it, UAB has earned the right to act a fool, to show their ass like that. But the UTEP Miners, unreal, man. Unreal.
So that's whenever they went up 24-0, and he had like that big scramble, right? And he turned around and hit that jog back for a good
that was like
yards.
The delayed quarterback draw. That was a sick play.
Yeah.
And I went back and I watched that play several times. It's in my film breakdown on alamodomeaudible.com if you're a Patreon subscriber. So that was a sick play from UTEP, because they did it was like a Tim Tebow play where the quarterback gets a snap, he takes a couple steps forward, and he like crouches down with the ball hidden, and the tight end or the fullback like releases on a late route. So you think, oh, it's going to be like a jump pass or something. Linebacker peels out of the tackle box to go cover that late releasing receiver, and then a hole just opens up and Brown-Holtz runs through it. Granted, all 5 offensive linemen for UTEP were holding on that play. All 5 of them, every single one, a blatant hold. And you know that I'm not one to complain about officiating as much as most people, but dude, it was egregious. It was really, really bad holding all throughout that first half. Jeff Traylor tore into the officials on the sideline, I think at the end of the second quarter. And then they started getting flagged a couple times for some holding. And then after that, the fortunes changed very quickly. So,
yeah, Brown-Holtz hits that for a good 5 yards, that backward shimmy. And then the turnaround on the student section, dude, real salty stuff right there. And
isn't it supposed to be taunting if you like run into the end zone like that?
I thought that was a flag. I was surprised when
not that I want them to get flagged on that, because like, come on, man, we're all grown men out here playing a game of violence.
But to the letter of the law, I think it may be taunting. Yeah, for sure. And dude, not only that, was that a little bit of that UTEP, UTSA, little bit of rivalry there at stake, throwing some flame on the fire. So
they wanted it to be.
You love to see it. You love to see that in what could be the last game for who knows how long. Yep. Jared, you love to see just a little bit of gasoline stoking that thing. Yeah, man. I love it. I love it. Feed that to me.
And then Dana Dimble joins the party after the loss.
Oh,
it was a 24-point lead. He leaves a freshman cornerback in single man coverage against UTSA's conference leading receivers, never puts any safety help on his side, gets beat, gets embarrassed, and then he gets on the podium after the game and starts to talk about piped in crowd noise. You know how much of a loser you have to be to lose the game to get you to bowl eligibility, possibly cost you your job. And you're going to get on here and talk about piped in crowd noise.
Well, how about UTEP fans in the replies? They were having none of it.
Oh,
they
were
having none of Dana, bro. And you saw all of them like, get out of here with those excuses, with that garbage. No, not even fan base has your back on that one, Chief. That was foul. But
and here's my take on that, right? Let's say that UTSA was piping in crowd noise, right? Everyone loves to make that claim. Whatever. You guys know I'm fairly objective. Like if UTSA was doing something like that, I'd have a problem with it. Sometimes they do it by accident, I think, but it's not like it's like, oh, like we're pumping in artificial noise, something nefarious. Right. But okay, let's just entertain that for a minute. Let's say that you're a coach and you've talked to other coaches. Will Hall at Southern Miss had the same accusation against UTSA last season. Wouldn't you come in prepared to face that kind of environment? Or would you have your offensive system be that your backup quarterback walks up to the line of scrimmage with 26,000 screaming people and this supposed fake artificial noise, and then he walks up to the line of scrimmage and barks out audibles at the line of scrimmage for 30 seconds before you snap the ball? That's just a failure of preparation. That is on the head coach. And they've played in this environment. They know how loud it gets.
Which, by the way, on the stadium broadcast, that crowd sounded phenomenal. When that comeback started there in the third quarter, fourth quarter, Alamodome crowd, dude, the volume sounded fantastic on that stadium broadcast. I think it was around 27,000?
It was 26,000. And I was surprised because I was also watching from home and it just sounded like a way louder crowd than that. It
sounded 30 plus in there. It was so loud. And I was so impressed with it. That stadium, man, it just rings in there. And granted, 26 I thought was a good number for a weekend after Thanksgiving. Usually you take a little bit of holiday hit there when it comes to attendance numbers.
I think you did notice a couple of rows of the student section weren't as full as they have been the past two seasons.
Right.
Holiday travel, totally get it, right?
Which means, we had that local consensus come out for some Thanksgiving week football. Go seeing a local team, baby.
Yeah, maybe some alumni back in town, for Thanksgiving and get to their first game of the year.
I think last year's championship number was 45,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared.
I think you're right, but that's a crazy number. Dude.
It blows my mind. Are we gonna get that Friday? I don't know about that, brother. Yeah, I don't know. Wild. I don't know. Do we get that Friday?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. You got to think about the hype of the undefeated season, of the prolonged ranking. I mean, UTSA got up to 15 in the rankings last year.
What a good point. Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to get the local casuals to be as hyped and invested for the game as they were last year. UTSA's had an amazing season. I would strongly argue it's a better season last year when you look at the full context of the strength of schedule, the injuries, the increase in competition. Even with the Conference USA, I feel like the league was better this year than last year. So definitely a better season for UTSA, but is like if I always I need a name of like a stereotypical San Antonio sports fan that doesn't have any official connection to UTSA, just like Ticket 760 listener Joe, right? Like he follows UTSA because they're on Ticket 760, but he's not he's never been on campus. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys aren't probably showing up on Friday like they did last year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, man. That's a great point. You go 11-0 to start a season. And let's say last year UTSA was 10-2 and this year they're 10-2, right? But you win the first 10 games and lose the last two versus starting 1-2 and then finishing 10-2. That big undefeated stretch, right? So going 11-0, not losing a single game for so many weeks. it builds so much. You get all the way up to number 15, and that hype train, dude, it was really, really rolling at full speed. You saw UTSA everywhere. They were being talked about on game day. They were being talked about on ESPN all the time. This and that noise. Yeah, man, for sure. You have a strong sense. So I looked it up. It looks like we were about 41,000.
Okay.
Last year in the Alamodome.
That sounds right. And also probably hit like 38.
Feels a little bit more attainable. Feels a little bit more attainable. I think as a program, as an institution, as a city, especially, 40,000 should be the number that's pushed for and expected for and wanted and desired. I think 38 probably is 37, 38 is a little more realistic, a little more obtainable. But Jared, I mean, wasn't there 35 in there for Houston?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but how many fans did Houston bring? 5K, 6K?
They brought a lot. 6?
Yeah, they brought a lot.
They did bring a lot.
And I would say in a vacuum that North Texas should bring a good traveling consensus. I'm pretty sure it's their first Conference USA championship game appearance, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it is. But no dice. Yeah, maybe Latrell got there once with Fine. I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. But you would expect them to bring 1,000, 2,000 fans to a championship game, within 4 miles of their campus. But I don't have any faith that's actually going to happen. Unfortunately, it would be a better atmosphere if that was the case.
Right.
But based off what we've seen from UNT traveling fan base so far, I don't know if it's going to happen. But in theory, yeah, that should help the attendance because obviously West Kentucky fans can't really travel on short notice to San Antonio on a Friday. UNT fans totally can. And I know they have a lot of alumni in Austin too. So that should be an easy trip for them.
2017, UNT loses to FAU.
Oh, that's right. That was Lane Kiffin's best team.
That was Lane Kiffin's best team. Yeah.
Yep.
So very good.
Off topic a little
very
bit.
Good, quick little attendance bite. It was necessary.
Preview.
It was necessary. Yeah, we jumped into the preview a little bit, but that was a good little attendance topic.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, we ranted probably too much about the slow start, having to come back from the deficit, all that stuff. Now it's time to keep some praise on these guys.
Let's talk about the fireworks.
This was, dude, I don't want to say people taking Frank Harris for granted, but his game he had against UTEP was unbelievable. It should have gotten national attention. Not only were his stats ridiculous, 16 to 22, 382 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 77% completion rate, 12 carries for 14 yards. But some of the throws that he made, man, the touchdown to Cephas, perfectly in stride on that wheel route.
Perfect.
The touchdown throw to both of those long throws to Tyke, the touchdown and the one to set up another touchdown.
Yep.
Perfect throws, man. Got him high, got him in stride, put him where the defender couldn't get to him. But maybe the most impressive throw he made that, I didn't realize it at the time until I went back for my rewatch is the drive to tie the game. There's like 3.5 minutes left in the game. He throws an out route from UTSA's left hash to the right sideline. Zakari on a kind of comeback route. He puts it right there for Zakari. He zips that ball out. And that is just not a throw that Frank had in his arsenal in 2020, maybe not even in 2021. And it's amazing. I know we have said this many times on the podcast, but it is amazing to see his growth as a passer. And the way that the staff has developed him, it built his lower body strength to get more power in his throws. Man, just really impressive stuff. I would argue the best passing performance we've seen from a UTSA quarterback maybe ever, as far as like the technical skill shown in those passes. Like Frank has had better games than this statistically, but some of the throws that he made just, for how long the ball was in the air, how much velocity he got on his throws, his ball placement, his throw selection, the way he looked off safeties. Go back and watch the touchdown throw to Cephas. The way he looks off the safety and he checks down to that down route, pump fix it, and then goes over the top of Cephas, man. It's an absolute thing of beauty.
Wow.
So cool. So cool to watch what Frank has become.
Supernatural. Yeah, he's a maestro out there. He's really developed into a maestro. And, he's got such a phenomenal natural talent to him, but the way that he's developed, and we have talked about it before, but it's not commended enough. And I think you're right on that front. The way he's developed in his passing game has really been next level. His football IQ, the way he's able to do things cerebrally, see things before the play and while the play is developing. I mean, he's gotten so good at all these things, but really the touch on his throws, he would he would have some good accuracy. He would make some good plays, but the touch now has become so consistent. I mean, every single time, 16 for 22 with 382 yards. It's just so ridiculous in of itself. And it's something that he does all the time. And even somebody that's just probably like casually watching that game would feel like maybe it was a light game for Frank whenever he does that. And that's the day that he has three, when he has a hat trick, right? It's supernatural what he's managed to do, man. So yeah, I think they said in the commentating booth on Stadium that Jeff Traylor's really going to be pleading with him to come back for that for that following year, man. And
did you see his tweet to him last night?
No, I don't think I caught it.
JJ posted 2 videos of how long the line was to get an autograph from Frank after the game. And then I think Frank tweeted like, sorry, hopefully I can get you guys autographs soon, like much love. And then Coach Traylor was like, I guess you got to come back next year and give the autographs out after the last game.
Stop it.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh. Funny. Yeah, man. A thing of beauty, man. A thing of beauty. And Frank Harris making it happen, making it work, getting it to different receivers. The distribution here, Jared. Tyke Ogle-Kellogg, 4 receptions, 142 yards for a 35-yard average, including a 70-yard bomb, 1 touchdown. And then Zachary Franklin, 7 catches, 126 yards, 18-yard average, touchdown with a 28-yard long. I
didn't realize Zachary had that monster of a game.
He had a tremendous game, bro. Zachary was all over the place.
Everything comes so easy to him. You can see him doing amazing things on the football field, and you don't even give it a second thought because he's just so silky smooth. That touchdown he caught where he was wide open on that poor freshman cornerback for UTEP, the little like shake and bake that he did on that play to get open, like, it looked like nothing to Zachary, like just a total natural movement, but that was so filthy, man. There are not a lot of receivers that can do a move like that and get that wide open, man. He's a very special talent, but I am so proud of Tyke Ogle-Kellogg, man. I'm sure you feel the same way. This guy's been like a fan favorite, I think, for UTSA fans for a while. Everyone saw, I think, his potential. Everyone was really hyped for him when he was a high school recruit. For some of the newer fans, you may not remember because it's been so long, but he was legitimately one of the top prospects in the whole state of Tennessee when he was a junior in high school. I think at one time he was committed to Tennessee or Ole Miss or something like that, but he had a bunch of like Power 5 SEC type offers.
Oh yeah, came in here with a ton of hype, man, a ton of buzz.
Yeah, and then if I recall correctly, apologize if I got this wrong. I certainly don't mean to speak ill on Tyke's character because I'm just keeping praise on him, but I believe that he was kicked off of his team for his senior year for smoking weed. This is the way that I remember it. It's been many years, so I could be wrong. It could have been something else, but he was not a part of the team his senior year. So all of his offers just fell through, right? UTSA stuck with him through the process. Frank Wilson said, look, man, we're going to give you a second chance. We believe in you. We love you. Then he came to UTSA and, he was like a playmaker right away. Like he caught a couple touchdowns his freshman year.
Yes.
But then you see him start to slide a little bit, right? He kind of disappeared for a while. And every year it was like, okay, like what's up with Tyke? Is he going to come be this player that we know he's capable of? Or is he going to ride the bench? Is he going to transfer? Like, is he just going to quit playing football? And he had a lot of like struggles in his personal life as well. And, some of the coaches have even talked about that. Like everything for him was just between the ears, right?
Right.
He has always had the physical ability to go out and be an all conference type of player, but he struggled a lot, through his college career. He lost a lot of ones that were close to him.
He was here like kind of at the toughest time transitionally. His freshman year was 2018, where Frank Wilson and his regime, they're kind of on the way down, but you still kind of have hope that Frank is going to figure it out. They're kind of in that in-between period where you think Frank can figure out, there's a chance that maybe they could get the offense together. Tyke was one of those guys that we were hoping, one of Frank's guys that he brought here that we were hoping was going to be instrumental in figuring that out and getting things better. 2019, which he plays in 11 games as a true freshman. 2018. 2019 is whenever Frank Wilson regime completely falls off, hits the bottom. I don't know what happened with Tyke, but only played in 3 games that year. And I think that's maybe been when all that off the field stuff was happening for him. But then you have to deal with a new coach. You got to deal with the wide receiving room getting heavy, getting thick. your run going down compared to what you were doing whenever you got here. And so you love to see it for a guy now in his senior season, getting all of the run, getting the first and the second look from Frank, being one of those first checks that he makes, and getting a lot of trust from him like nothing's changed. And dude, at Tyke, really, man, it's just so dependable going up there and catching the ball and then making things happen once he makes the catch. He looks fantastic, dude. He's going to be instrumental this week against UNT if we're going to win.
Yeah, he stayed the course. I mean, in this era of college football, he could have had so many options in the portal to go elsewhere and probably be their number one receiver, to be honest with you. He could be the starting X receiver in a lot of G5 programs. I feel very confident about that. And, you know, he just stuck by his teammates. He committed to his craft. And when JT Clark went down and they needed someone to step up and I wouldn't say like lead the receiver unit, but kind of emerge as that deep threat, you know, downfield, like kind of red zone target. Tyke's delivered that in spades. And it's just like he's been preparing for this moment, whether he knew it or not, right?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is he still has one more. He still has one more year left to use. I don't think he walked for senior day this year. So if any of the big three do go into the NFL draft or go into the portal or something, Tyke is going to be right there to step in and fill that role. And you know, hopefully JT's back and fully healthy next year as well. So it's great to see for him, man. I'm really happy for that guy, and I'm really proud of him, man. It's been a crazy and difficult journey for him. And I don't know, man, it's why you play the game, right? For those memories and those stories and that personal development, man. I love it. I love it.
I do love it, man. Tyke, great to see him striding, great to see him thriving. So
go up some touchdowns over that 5'8" cornerback at UNT this week, and we'll be even more proud.
Yeah, let's make that happen, baby. We need some of those.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it was not all, I guess, good news for UTSA coming out of the game with this comeback win and the top 25 ranking. Some pretty serious injuries for the Roadrunners coming into this one. I guess first off, the first one to go down was Brendan Brady. Looked like an arm, wrist injury of some sort, just kind of landed awkwardly. He's been confirmed out for this week and will be the end of his career as a Roadrunner. Another guy, man, always been a personal favorite of mine. Total class act, man. Super smart guy, very team driven. Another guy that stepped up when the Roadrunners needed him, right? His plan was to graduate and start his business and, you know, start his career and all of that. And then, you know, UTSA running backs just started going down like flies. Sincere McCormick declares for the NFL draft unexpectedly, left UTSA in a bind at running back. So Brendan says, "Hey, I got you, coach. I'm going to come back." He had a great season, man. I think he finished just a couple yards short of getting fourth place all-time rushing yardage at UTSA. Nice. So he's had a great career and just a really important, maybe it's underselling it to say this, but kind of like a bridge year for UTSA to go from Sincere to now. It looks like Kavorian Barnes is going to be the feature back. He's going to get his first start this week, and I think he's going to carry this program into the AAC at the running back position. But I don't know if Kavorian would have been ready for it without Brendan Brady there to give him that senior leadership, to show him how to go through the ropes, how to go through the ringer, and to take a lot of pressure off his back as well. Like if Kavorian has to be the guy from day one, I'm not sure he has the same season that he's having right now. You know what I mean?
100%. And I don't know if UTSA is able to have as much consistency on the ground that they do, right? And Brendan Brady really instrumental in holding down the run game for UTSA all season long, man. And not allowing it to take too much of a step back without Sincere here.
Yeah. Is Brendan the best pass catching running back in UTSA history?
Oh,
Evans Okacha was pretty good.
Evans Okacha was pretty good, bro.
Brandon Armstrong had a couple touchdown catches.
I think you could put him up there along with Evans Okacha. Evans Okacha maybe have had some bigger moments doing it. Brennan just wasn't afforded to. I'm sure Evans Okacha probably got a lot more snaps than Brennan did. So,
yeah, and UTSA didn't need to throw to the running backs as much as they did back in the Coke era.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'll always remember Brendan's like diving touchdown catch on a wheel route against FAU that got called back. Man, that was a beautiful play. Shame that one didn't count.
We have seen Kavorian Barnes do some damage catching the ball out of the backfield, though.
Yeah, he's got big shoes to fill.
He had two. He had one long catch. Kamorian Barnes. He had one long catch and run over the week. I think it was over 20 yards against UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably see some more of that this week. But the other injury looked an even more severe one, unfortunately. Gavin Sharp really messed up his leg.
Yeah.
I never saw the play, never saw the replay, never saw any video, but just based off what I've heard from people, it was really ugly. And it's great to hear that he's in good spirits now, successful surgery, he's back with the team. But man, just a terrible way to end your season as a player, right? Get hurt on senior day like that. It's really brutal. And I just hope this team can come through and deliver another championship for these guys so they can go out with a really good feeling about how their career wrapped up here in San Antonio.
Oof. Championships. Oh man.
They'll hit you up faster than a disappointing loss. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, anything else that you wanted to call out from this game? I don't think we said it earlier. UTSA ends the series with UTEP with an 8-2 lead.
It was
crazy.
So one thing left to call out is that it was another classic, right? If we hadn't had a true classic in this rivalry series in a couple of years, I mean, last year's was a classic matchup, but it wasn't really classic on the field wise, right? But this season, we actually got a tremendous, well, not a back and forth, but a beginning and an end, a tale of two halves as UTSA comes back in just the most dramatic fashion. But there's been a lot of really, really incredible games over the series history with UTEP, which we recapped on last week's Patreon. If you're subscribed, you heard it. Mm-hmm. And so for this to join the passages with UTEP, it's a perfect ending to this, bro. I think we mentioned it, but UTEP was UTSA's very first regular season Conference USA opponent and their very last regular season Conference USA opponent. And so to have like sort of that poetic justice of UTSA sort of, moving on from being alongside the ranks with UTEP after, getting here and joining them, moving up to get there. It's really poetic, man. It's really special. And in this fashion, you couldn't write it. You couldn't script it any better.
Mm-hmm. I think if I were to go back to 2012, 2013 and ask myself, through 10 games of the series with UTEP, what record would you be happy with? I probably would have said 5-5. It sounds silly knowing what we know about this program now and how far it's come and how far it's still going to go. But 8-2, man, that's just, I don't think my brain could have processed that back in the WAC days and the independence days of the first season, man. I'm just doing a lot of reflecting as UTSA moves out of Conference USA. And this conference has treated us so well. There's been bad years, there's been down years, there's been frustrations, there's been a lot of things that could have been done differently and led to more success or whatever. But overall, it's been a great ride through this conference with the UTSA. I wish it no ill will. I see a lot of fans, crapping on Conference USA on the way out, crapping on UTEP on the way out. I don't feel that way at all. I hope we play UTEP soon. And I hope we schedule at a conference series with them periodically. And I'm going to miss it, man. I'm going to miss it. I don't know, man. It's a very sentimental thing for me, I think.
I'm going to miss it big time. Yeah. USA was really, really special and really, really good to this team. Really, really good to the UTSA program, not just in football, but in other sports as well. And, really fortunate to be climbing the ladder as fast as we could, as fast as we have. Let's not get ahead of ourselves as a fan base and, consider it a given because it's not. UTSA extremely fortunate and also worked really hard and did a lot of right things to end up where they are. But CUSA, so instrumental in the childhood, the youth, the teenage years of this football program, of this institution. Super special, man. I like that you asked that hypothetical question. If you could ask young Jared what would be the series record with UTEP, and you think you said 5-5 rather than 8-2. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, considering when we leave CSA, and we're still going to play them, but now that we've left CUSA, we're 7-3 with Rice. What would you have said the Rice CUSA record would have been if you would have asked him back there, knowing what we knew then, not knowing what we know now?
I think it would have been higher than UTEP.
You think it would have been more than 5-5?
Yeah, maybe. But now I'm thinking about it, and Rice won the championship in 2013.
I feel like Rice had our number more so than UTEP did. Yeah, I felt like I was more scared to play Rice every year than I was UTEP.
Well, I'm just thinking with in 2013, right? Like, we know 14, 15, they had our number, right? But I remember like thinking back then, like, man, it's going to be hard for Rice to keep up because now in the same conference as UTSA doesn't have to get guys that have a 4.0 GPA. So I always felt like we were going to break through and be better than Rice. I just thought UTEP would have a little bit more longevity in Conference USA because, I mean, if you look back on their 2013 roster, they had some dudes, man. They were getting transferred from Power 5 schools and they were getting 30,000 in the Sun Bowl consistently. So I thought UTEP was going to be a force in Conference USA for a while, and that really just turned out not to be the case. I didn't think Rice was going to have that same longevity.
Mm-hmm. Sure. That makes sense. Absolutely. Zoomed out, Jared. Always big picture. Well, we've got 2 out of 3 of the Texas teams beat on the Conference USA record. UNT, the third of those Texas teams, we are 5-5. Going into the final Conference USA game in both programs' history, the rivalry championship, Jared. Are you kidding me? The rivalry championship. Oh, baby. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Not only the most monumentally huge, enormous game in just UTSA and I would say UNT's history. I don't know the whole 100 years that they've been playing, but I would say this is probably the most important game ever for UNT. And, dude, for sure in this current construction of CUSA, but man, ever in CUSA, the freaking best championship matchup ever, the rivalry championship, UTSA, UNT, it's going to be so excellent, instant classic. Oh my gosh, Jared. But yeah, we got to win to get the winning record, the CUSA winning record over all our Texas opponents. That would be a nice little bragging point there. I love that.
Yeah, that really would. So just some quick Patreon shout outs. We'll take a Kumbia break and then we're going to dive into our full UNT preview. We're not really doing much of a preview for UNT because we just played them a couple weeks ago. It's not like their roster is completely turned over. You know, they've just kind of done what we've expected them to do since that game. We're kind of keep it more conversational and kind of ask some key questions going into it. But before we do, I want to say thank you to our new subscriber on Patreon. Josh G joined us at the Insider tier. Hope you enjoyed the UTEP film breakdown. Had to take a couple weeks off. I had travel delays leaving Birmingham for the UAB game. And then last week I moved into a new house. So there was just no way that I even could get my computer unpacked in time to do a film breakdown, but it's good to be back. I had to make do with social media highlights because Stadium didn't post a replay for like the first time ever. But it was still a fun one. It's good to be back in the swing of things. As always, thank you to our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron, and as always, our Board of Trustees members who have supported us so much this year and for many years past for a lot of these guys, Digiteek, John Alwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy's Tailgating, Gary and Ruben represented the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meet Me Apparel, Brandon Grill and the Grill Realty Group, and Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefits Solutions. So thank you guys all so much. We've got more Patreon bonus content coming this week. We're going to do a coaching carousel update with our intern, CJ. You guys know I love to nerd out on that stuff. We're going in, baby. We're talking Texas State. We're talking Sam Houston State. We're talking South Florida's about to make a hire. Man, it's like half the jobs in the AAC are open right now. So we're about to go in. We're about to figure out who the heck this Biff Poggi guy is that Charlotte hired. So it's going to be a good one, man. I'm really excited for that. But I'll give you guys a quick break from hearing our voice. We're going to hit that Kumbia break and be back in just a second to preview this massive conference championship game matchup. All right, folks, the time has arrived. The Conference USA Championship game is back in its rightful home in San Antonio, Texas. It's going to be a packed dome. It's going to be a rowdy Friday night. the nation will be tuned in to CBS Sports, or maybe like 100,000 of the nation or something like that. That sweet Conference USA visibility and exposure. But UTSA and North Texas will be playing for the the final version of Conference USA 3.0, or whatever you want to call it, trophy, before all these schools jet off to the American Athletic Conference. Adrian, what's your kind of general sense heading into this game? Like, are you feeling confident, nervous, anxious? What's your general emotion if you had to pick one?
I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm really not too overly nervous or overly anxious, but you can't lie and act like that doesn't exist, because it does, man. This is a rivalry game. Rivalries are weird. Weird stuff happens. And the fact of the matter is, UNT messes with UTSA. North Texas messes with UTSA mentally, just because of the sake of the rivalry, just because they don't like each other. Whatever it is, man, this matchup, it screws around with us. And the same to be said, UTSA does for North Texas, right? We screw with them mentally as well. And that's just the dynamic that rivalries present. That's what makes them so beautiful. And look, I don't know, maybe CBS Sports isn't going to give it its just due. Maybe CSA isn't going to give it its just due. Damn it, Alamodome Audible is going to give it its just due. The Conference USA rivalry championship. I mean, dude, you have to understand the way that lightning had to strike in order for this to even occur. This is the only season in CUSA history that is divisionless. Both teams last year in the conference. The chances of UNT and UTSA facing in a conference championship, literally, this is the only season where it's possible, right? And both teams good enough to make it into the dance this particular year happening. Dude, I mean, it's as if the football gods are opening up the clouds and saying, let there be a rivalry. And yes, sir, we're getting it.
I want to point out as well that because most conferences have divisions or have had divisions for the longest of time, it is extremely rare for two true rivals to meet on a championship stage in college football.
Doesn't happen.
No. Like, whenever UT and A&M were in the Big 12 together, they were in the same division. And I think there were divisions at the time in the Big 12, I'm pretty sure. Big 10 East, Michigan and Ohio State are in the same division together. They're not going to face in a championship game. It's just, it's really rare. I mean, you look at the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt has all these great regional rivalries. Those teams are never going to meet in a conference championship because all the schools that have rivalries with each other are all in the East or all in the West. So it's just a very rare, special thing. And, it's a shame it's only going to be on CBS Sports because it's going to be an awesome, awesome game. It's so rare for two true natural regional rivals that hate each other, hate each other.
Hey, we had freaking coaches trying to fight players in the locker room tunnels after the game. This is as rivalry it gets, man. There is no bigger, better, nastier. It is going to be a bloodbath out there, Jared. There will be blood. It is war, total war.
100%. I think I might use that as the podcast title. There will be blood.
Yes.
Oh man.
And both teams want it. They smell it. They want to taste it. And it's huge, bro. It's so incredible for these two teams to be showing up. I hate UNT. There's no other team that I hate more. There's no other team that I want to beat more. So yeah, always gotta have a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of nervousness when it comes to this matchup. Hell, even my wife hates that we're playing UNT versus the first one. And she's like, oh, we always play like, whatever we play UNT, we always play like S against them. So it definitely exists. And even, for as casual of a watcher as she knows what it means and what the matchup means. Right. And I think it's just fantastic for both of these programs, teams, fan bases, this rivalry. If we got ourselves an instant classic that's coming up, man, and I'm a little bit nervous, dude, it took everything. UNT was up 13-3 at halftime. I went on that little rant about slow starts in the last regular season game, right? Getting off to a bad start in the first half. UNT was up 13-3 a couple of weeks ago in the Alamodome over this UTSA team. I don't know if we can afford to do that at any stage of this game. We got to come out there and really be laser focused against this team. We can't play around. I don't think we can play around. I don't think you can give UNT much momentum at all because they'll run with it. They really will. Latrell knows how.
Yeah, so I mentioned before the jump that, UNT hasn't changed that much since we last played them. I don't think you can say the same for UTSA though. I mean, JT Clark has gone down for the season since that UNT game.
Yes.
Brendan Brady's gone down for the season after that UNT game. The starting left side of the offensive line has changed now. I guess they're still doing a rotation, which I want to talk about later in this kind of in this segment. But I think if you look at how these teams have changed since that last meeting, I think UTSA's played better football since then, but some of their depth and their talent has been, I guess you could say, challenged a little bit more.
Sure. There's been injuries. And also, Jared, schematically, we've been a little bit different. I'd love to see the run pass distribution prior to UNT and since UNT. I'd imagine 10 times out of 10 in November, it's been way, way different with Kavorian Barnes getting warmed up, with the offensive line being healthy when they were. And so the offense has been much, much different in terms of how they operate since that game.
For UTSA. A lot more 12 personnel, right? So we'll see how that impacts as well. Keep in mind, UTSA's game against UNT was really their breakout performance in the running game.
Yep.
Right. They ran the ball 54 times against UNT, which was like 2 games worth, heading into that game. Brendan had 19 carries. Frank had 16 carries. Kavorian had 10. Traylon had 6. Cephas had 2. Kavorian's getting all those carries, man. He might have a 25-30 carry game against UNT and their terrible rushing defense. So I'm excited to see that. Just Kavorian unleashed, right? Super exciting to think about.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that fool getting down there, running the ball 200 plus yards from Kavorian. Feed that to me, baby.
Yeah. Does your memory serve you the same that Frank Harris ran the ball a lot more in that championship game against Western Kentucky last year than he did like in most games of the season?
I remember there being a lot of Frank's ability to recognize when he could run and do it during Western Kentucky. Like the opportunity, I feel like presented itself a lot of times to Frank and he took off. I don't know that they were so much planned runs or called runs, right? I think it was Frank's recognition, which I would argue this season has been not quite as good. There's times where there's been open field in front of him for him to take off, and he hasn't quite done it. But Frank Harris took off 11 times in that championship game against WKU for 86 yards.
I think I'm going to expect the same from Frank against North Texas this week. Just like it's Kavorian unleashed, I think it's going to be Frank unleashed. And I think that a lot of that hesitation that he's shown throughout the season of like really going through all of his checkdowns, trying to find some way to throw the ball for a gain through the air, I think he's going to throw it out the window. I think he's going to take off and run for this championship game. And that's when UTSA is at its most fun and most explosive.
Goes back to his Jordan mode, baby. Just Kobe mode, baby.
Taking it back to Clemens, baby. Let's
go. Let's go. And, and to your point earlier, as much as he's developed as a passer, it allows him even more leeway with his feet, right? Because he's got it on both sides like never ever before. He can do it with both his feet, with his arm. Yeah, just incredible, man. Yeah, I'm ready to see Frank Harris ball out and bring that back to back to just, oh my gosh, to the River City, baby. Let's go.
The one big change that I've seen from UNT's roster heading into this game compared to the last meeting is they've gotten hit pretty hard at the running back position. It's still a strong position of depth for them. I would compare to UTSA's wide receivers, where their number 3, their number 4 guys are still really strong. So right now, it's looking like Ikea Ragsdale is going to get the overwhelming majority of their carries. Oscar Attaway's been hurt. Io Day's been hurt. So I think they have one of their back that had some carries last week. Can't remember his name, Johnson or something like that. But Ragsdale's going to be the guy. And it's going to be interesting to see, are they just going to feed him over and over how we expect UTSA to feed Kavorian Barnes? Or are they going to do what they did last time in their meeting against UTSA, where they kind of abandoned the run and they just go pass happy, right? I think there's a good chance that you're going to see that from the Mean Green. But that is one thing to keep in mind, because they couldn't run on UTSA earlier in the season. They only had 1 yard per carry in the previous meeting. Yeah. So now you take away their leading rusher from that game, Oscar Attaway, and like, can you expect the rushing attack to get better now that their leading rusher is gone? So big question I have for the Mean Green on their side offensively.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, to me, man, it really comes down to the mental preparedness, the emotional state of this UTSA team going against UNT, right? I mean, there's something there whenever these two teams match up that it's so personal that sometimes that can get in the way of executing good,
Sure.
clean football, right? And so that's something that's really big weighing on my mind is how locked in, how much can UTSA put the rivalry and put the noise to the side and just focus on beating this team the right way, not trying to exert themselves because emotionally they're just a little too gassed up for each snap. And yeah, you can see that stuff happen, man. And we think back to the history with this team, and it's only gotten uglier and uglier. And just a couple of weeks ago, I got extremely ugly on the field and again off the field. Oh my gosh, I mean, they're chomping at the bit in Denton right now. They're chomping at the bit. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it was up Seth Luttrell's sleeves, Seth Luttrell and staff up his sleeves to tell his guys to get in there and, egg some guys on a little bit, bring some nasty out, get them pissed off, right? Annoy them, bother them. Yeah. I think he knows it works.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the game you want to play if you're North Texas. You want to knock UTSA off their pivot as much as possible, whether it's something schematically or getting inside their head from a psychological standpoint. That's something you got to do. You got to exert every tool in the toolbox, right? To try to beat a team that on paper is probably a lot better than you are. So yeah, I mean, I completely see that. And one thing I know for sure, man, for all of his flaws, Seth Luttrell is an excellent game planner.
Huge.
And
yes.
like when a big game is on the line, he's going to find a way to put his guys in position to make plays, right? So I'm really excited to just see two really good coaching staffs go head to head. Defensive coordinator Phil Bennett is going to have a crazy game plan. They weren't able to really slow UTSA down all that much in that last game, but Bennett is one of the best veteran defense coordinators in the G5. So nothing's going to come easy for UTSA, I don't think. I would be surprised if they just kind of cruise through this game.
The chess match that this will be between these two coaching staffs. I mean, it never fails to be one whenever this team sees Seth Luttrell and his mean green. And it's going to happen again. This will be an absolute thing of beauty for you real X's and O's sickos to nerd out on, man. I mean, it's going to be fantastic schematically to watch. And guys are going to be stumped. Traylor's going to be stumped. Luttrell's going to be stumped. Both of them are going to be stumped at certain points. And both of them are going to have some really good moments, some beautiful moments as well. But dude, yeah, it's going to be one of those games that there's going to be things that we can't figure out for a little bit that we're going to have to adjust and settle into. I think you're going to have to see a lot of adjustments throughout the tail of this game. UTSA going up against UNT for the second time, and UNT being an underdog, I feel like they have they're in a little bit more of a situation to be a little more ruthless, a little more reckless. Like, I guess, kind of going all out, as being the underdog. Does UNT, are they able to get away with a little bit more of an aggressive game plan, I suppose? Was that something you would expect from UNT?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to be a little bit more, I don't know. I guess more likely to take chances, right? Because they do feel like they're an underdog. I think they're like a 16 or 14 point underdog in this game. It was way too high in my opinion. Yeah. So I think they're going to come in with a mindset of like, look, we're going to empty the playbook. We're going to throw everything that we've got out here, and I mean, trick plays, get nasty, grabbing guys, and when the players all bunched up for a fumble and stuff like that. Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're UTSA, you're just like, hey, like, let's just stick to what got us here. Let's not change up our game plan too much. We've had success doing what we've been doing, and let's just stay the course, right? And if we got to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments. But I think if I had to pick one team that's going to come into this matchup with a completely different look and something crazy different, it would probably have to be the Mean Green.
Yeah, I'm expecting a very, very different type of football played from each offense, right? I think UTSA is going to rely on what they did against UNT in that ground game and let Cavoyne Barnes be the workhorse and gash him downfield for those long extended drives. But if UNT is coming out here and trying to pull big plays and they're able to score quick and keep the thing close, it'll be interesting to see kind of how we find the right balance with letting Frank really, really let it go as well. But I think UTSA likes to come out and score quick in these things. We're just not able to all the time. Like there was that real big deep shot that we had on the first drive against UTEP. Frank just missed on that throw.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to see, I think, this UTSA team take shots on those opening drives for sure. I think that's been a trend. Yeah, it gets wacky though. I do think this one certainly gets wacky. And defensively, both teams I think will somewhat have their work cut out to them. Maybe UTSA not on defense so much, but UNT does some weird things. Seth Luttrell is always able to figure out some weird ways to make North Texas score.
That's my biggest question for UTSA on the really just defensively, right? Has the secondary improved enough to not give up so many really long passes? If you go back and you look at that last meeting between these two teams, they gave up passes of 54 yards to Roderick Burns, 46 yards to Varkey's Gums, 58 yards to Jair Shorter, 19 yards to Jake Roberts. So that was, I would say, a schematic decision from UTSA to put guys near the line of scrimmage and sell out to stop the run, left them very vulnerable to play action. UNT is going to want to go hard after that in this game. But right. I do feel like Kelechi Nwachukwu and Clifford Chapman especially have really progressed, and they've really stepped up since Rashad Wisdom went down for the season. So how much have they improved, relative to that last game against North Texas? Clifford Chapman's on a 3-game interception streak right now, right? So I think that is a potential big turning point in comparing the past performance in the first meeting to how this conference championship game might play out. If those two safeties have really gotten as better as I think they have, and they can cut down on some of those 40-plus yard completions, then UTSA should win more comfortably than they did in the first meeting.
Austin Ani throws for 325 yards and 3 touchdowns on 15 completions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In that first game, in that first matchup. Yeah, just ridiculous number there. So I think you're right, though. It's a little bit of a different looking of a secondary from where we were at the end of October. So that could be a crucial point to watch out for. And that was the game that afterward, Jeff Traylor said, hey, look, we're going to take away what they do best. And at that point, North Texas is running the ball really well, right? And that's really what we saw for. So do we see us going all out defensively to stop one thing or another? Or do you think UTSA needs to be, just because of the championship game, they need to be more balanced in their defensive approach?
I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. Austin Ani couldn't beat you last time. He hit on big plays. He had 325 yards, but he was inaccurate. He had like a 50% completion rate.
15 for
so
31,
I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again, and I'm confident I'm going to get a pick or two. I'm confident that he's going to miss some crucial third down conversions.
Sure.
I just like the matchups better in that passing game. I think Nick Troy Fortune has kind of had a rough couple of weeks for some reason, but I think Corey Mayfield is still able to lock down most receivers in Conference USA, and I think these safeties have gotten better. So I like the odds to just repeat that same game plan and just keep doing it until UNT shows a sustained ability to make you pay for it. And I don't think they quite did that last game. They got close, but it wasn't quite enough to break through.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. Very fair. I like that.
On the UTSA side on offense, something I just realized earlier is UTSA has been very vanilla on offense these past 3-4 weeks. Part of that has been because most of the games have been blowouts, so they haven't really need to get fancy or creative because they've had the subs in pretty quickly. But then I think in UTEP, I don't think they really planned to implement a lot of new plays, because why would you put a new play on film the week before a conference championship game that you're already guaranteed to host in? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The weirder plays that we saw UTSA run against UTEP were plays that they had run early in their season. Like when they motioned Oscar in for that 3rd or 4th down conversion, he took a snap under center. They ran that against against UT Austin. That wheel route touchdown to Cephas, they'd run that earlier in the year. So it's not like they were throwing out a lot of new stuff. But also another wrinkle, offensive coordinator Will Stein's not with the team this week because his wife just had a baby, right? So it's are you able to fully implement new gadget plays, new trick plays on offense if your coach is not there in person. So you might not have an option, but it does make you curious, like what stuff that they've been working on in practice that they're saving for this conference championship game and keep it loaded up in the holster.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. So maybe I don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to see an offense that's been similar to what we've been seeing in November.
I agree. No doubt.
Like Kavori and Barnes run it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But who gets running back 2 snaps for you? Long pause is not good. That's not reassuring.
Yeah, that's a good question. But I mean, it's like, who else are you going to go to?
I'm going to J-Rod, baby.
You're going to J-Rod?
Yes, sir.
Wow, I did not expect that.
Well, there's not a lot of options. I mean, I don't know if Julon Williams is healthy. Like, I don't think we've seen him all year. Ty Edwards is like in the doghouse. Like, they're not really giving him many snaps. And I don't think his running style is best to combat UNT's defense. Like, I think you got to attack him with speed. So that's why I'm going with J-Rod if Kavori needs to come out.
I just don't know if I see.
In all honesty, I'm probably going 5 wide. If Kavori has to step out of the game.
I just don't know if I see Jeff Traylor putting in Justin Rodriguez in a conference championship game.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just don't know if he's doing that. I just don't feel like we've seen that from him. He's one of the guys that trust experience more so than anything else, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I would love to see it. I would love to see it. We saw J-Rod get down and dirty up against Rice for a couple plays. So give it to me. The question I had, oh man, I can't remember what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you something. Alas.
Well, while you try to fish up that question, maybe it'll spark you when I talk a little bit. But the last thing that I want to point out in this game is that if you go back and watch the film in the UTEP game, the offensive success rate whenever Walker Beatty and Payne Hebert are in the game on the left side of the offensive line compared to when they rotate in Vinley Tatafu and Terrell Haynes was drastic. It made a huge difference. And they kept rotating those guys all throughout the game. That's a big reason why that game was close, right? Because when Tatafu and Haynes were out there, I don't think they're back to 100%. And maybe they just want to get those guys reps in like a quote unquote meaningless game. So they have that depth ready to go. Those guys are kind of back into game speed for North Texas should they need them. But that's something I'm watching very closely is I think right now Beatty and Hebert are by far the 2 better players this week, just based off health and recent performances and stuff like that. But are they going to continue to rotate at that position, or are they just going to roll with those guys for now? Because if they're going to rotate and they're going to put Tatafu and Haynes in there, I'm going to be a little worried because they really got it handed to them last week by UTEP. And North Texas defensive line isn't quite as good as UTEP, but they're still pretty solid. And I think they sacked Harris 4 times in that last meeting, so they can get after the quarterback for sure. That guy that they had transferred from like Eastern New Mexico or whatever it was, that guy was a monster, man. So I'm pretty worried about that dude.
I remember what I was going to ask you.
Okay, nice.
You said who was going to be the second running back you handed to.
Yeah.
I was going to say who's going to be your running back that you toss it to for those trick pass plays. Who's going to be your passing running back now?
Kavorian's from a small town. I feel like he's played some quarterback at some point in his life. So
okay.
You got to think he can do it. But all the receivers can throw a decent ball, so why don't you throw one out to Cephas, who played quarterback in high school a bit?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
But I mean, you don't have to do it, man. You don't have to have Frank not throw a pass. There is no contractual obligation in Will Stein's contract that says he must have a non-quarterback attempt to pass in every game.
He needs it. It has to happen. Oh, yeah.
Hey, I get it, man. I get it. When I'm playing NCAA football or whatever, I got one stupid play I got to run every game.
How epic is it to you, Jared, that it's a UTSA UNT championship game? How much more does it mean more to you as the objective fan that you are? Does it mean more to you? Are you more emotionally involved in it because it's North Texas?
I think so, because the fear of the loss, I think, is worse than the fear of the loss to Western Kentucky.
Oh my God, so much bigger.
So much more. So much
bigger. Yeah, it's looming. It's so scary to think about losing to this team.
And I think it's also big from an off the field standpoint, because if you go back and you look at the Conference USA Championship game, it's been schools that are moving to the AAC that are either winning it or playing in it for the most part. An AAC bound school has won it. It'll be this year. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a row. That's pretty crazy. But to have two of those schools that are going to the AAC that are natural rivals to each other, it's really setting up those storylines for that game to get pulled onto like ESPN2, ESPNU next year in the AAC, and really get talked up and really create some compelling narratives to present to the national college football landscape. So
oh my gosh, imagine
not
that.
only is it huge for us here locally as fans, like for our rivalry, but I think also just to help build some excitement for the AAC is really big.
Dude, yeah, I mean, at this point, you could have an entire pregame montage of moments that have occurred between these two teams, the whole highlight reel, year by year by year, right? Before the game actually starts up. So that's going to be nice. Yeah, give it to us every year. Schedule it every year, AAC. That's what we want. So it's going to be special, man. It's going to be a very, very special day in the Alamodome Friday. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm excited, but I'm very confident in this team's ability to take care of business and defend the title, Jared. I really am.
Well, then hit me with that score prediction, brother.
37-31 Roadrunners.
Oh, dude, we're so close.
No, baby.
We're so close. I got 38-30 Roadrunners.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. A little bit more cushion from Jared. Very good.
Yeah, that's rare. That's very rare.
Oh, and not to toot my own horn, but also back in our our UTSA media roundtable preseason, I did have a 10-2 undefeated CUSA preseason prediction. Yes, sir. You could hear it here first on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, you'll know what happens. Try to tell you guys this. Yeah, man. Woo. So we got one more Conference USA game to win. Let's do that. Let's get it done. Murder UNT. We are going to have more UNT content on the way this week. Isn't that right, Jared?
That's right. So we'll be going on the Mean Green Show with Snowy Valente, as we always do.
Yes.
We're scheduled to record that tomorrow. I'm not quite sure when it will be published, but keep an eye out for that midweek this week. Always a great time talking with Sonoe. It's always nice when the UNT fans are like, oh yeah, you have Jared and Adrian on. We love them. I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but that's cool, I guess. And then, like I said earlier, we will have a Patreon bonus episode this week where we'll be going through the coaching carousel in college football and kind of talking about some jobs relative to UTSA and, jobs of interest to the UTSA fan base and how that's all playing out. So that should be a fascinating walk through the college football landscape. And I'm always excited for that stuff. I hope it carries through to the podcast because it's one of my favorite parts of being a college football fan. Seeing who's going to take what job and why.
Oh, baby, that's going to be good stuff. I'm excited for that action.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for listening. Please share, subscribe, like, suggest. I don't know, all the social media things. Help us grow. Appreciate you guys listening throughout the season. We got a bowl game still left to do, of course, but end of the regular season. And just wanted to say thank you all once again for continuing to support us and promote us and all that good stuff. So we'll see you guys on the lot on Friday.
That's right.
Adrian, I will be there slapping on the signs in section 206. So come up and say hi if you see us.
You already know we need 50,000 in the dome to murder UNT. Murder UNT. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Back to back. Let's make it happen.